Jennings and Mark Schlereth in for Whitlock and Wiley. We're joined now by NBA champion Dahntay Jones. Let's move to the NBA, where James Harden ended 2018 in style, dropping a 43-point triple-double in a win over the Grizzlies on Monday. After a rocky start to the year, Harden has now scored 40 or more in 4 straight games, and the Rockets have won 10 of their last 11. Dahntay, I start with you. Are you buying that the Houston Rockets have figured it out?
They figured out their short-term problem, and that's to be a great regular season team and to uphold the expectations that are on them at the beginning of the season. So they'll finish anywhere between second and third in the Western Conference. But to be a championship caliber team, they're going to need Chris Paul to come back, be healthy, and be available when it comes conference finals time to be able to finish off a team and get to the finals. I think he wants to be a champion, not just hold a bunch of regular season records. And he's in great company right now with champions, and that's what set them other guys apart. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, he joined those categories with him, but he wants to be a champion and join that category with them to be able, so his legacy can live on forever.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think that right now, this looks great. And it's great for what James Harden is doing. I think he's having a tremendous tear with this 40-point run, but it's just not sustainable. When you look at guys who have done things like this, take a look at a couple years ago with Russell Westbrook. It looked great with all the regular season triple-doubles, all the numbers he was able to put up. But what did it do for them in the playoffs? Nothing.
He wore down.
Nothing. He was wore out. And so when I look at the lack of having CP3, mind you, he's kind of a shell of himself this year. He hasn't been the same CP3 that we've seen in years prior throughout his career. They will need that moving forward. But right now, yes, it looks good, but it's not sustainable.
Here's what you could fit what I know about the NBA in a thimble. Okay, that's about that's about where we are right now. But here's what I do know: is it sustainable? Like this 10-game streak he's on. He has scored 40, he's averaged 40 points per game in a 10-game streak. You know how many times that's happened in the last 30 years? Twice.
Right.
2 other times. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. So it's not sustainable. CP3's health, is that sustainable? It hasn't been. He missed time last year. And I know this, you can knock down shots, you can play that game, and you can win a game. But you can't win a 7-game series if you're relying on shooting 3-pointers and getting to the foul line. You got to do other things in you know what I do know about the NBA. I just don't think that's a formula for long-term success, especially in a 7-game series when the games are called a little bit tighter, a little bit differently in the NBA, in the NBA championship series.
Yeah, he's holding up his end of the bargain right now. He's the greatest scorer in our game right now. He's assisting. He's doing things to help the team win right now. But his future is held in Mike D'Antoni and Chris Paul's hands. Whether Chris Paul can be healthy for an extended period of time and be healthy throughout the whole playoffs, and whether Mike D'Antoni can make adjustments when it comes time for conference finals and finals time. Mike D'Antoni's system has not made a finals yet, and that's what James Harden's legacy is hinged on right now.
Is that the lack of adjustments defensively? Is that just the run and gun style with which they play?
To adjust that style and adjust defensively, that's where Mike D'Antoni has to be judged at this point in time. And that's his next level as a coach. I think James is going to always be James. He's going to wear out sometimes, but that's why he has Chris Paul to help him out in those times and defend and to lead and do all those other things in that capacity. But he's going to need Chris and Mike to hold their weight for him to be a champion.
I'm glad you mentioned CP3 because he's out right now and he's doing this without him. When he comes back, do they still have this amount of success with Chris Paul in the lineup?
I think they do because James is the focal point for every defense, and CP can find his way and affect the game in many other ways rather than scoring the ball. He doesn't have to be ball dominant. He can spot up and shoot. And I think James is in a good groove enough to be able to help CP find his way back in the lineup and find a way to be a possible championship contender.
Do they have enough on this roster? We obviously know what James Harden brings to the table. We obviously know who CP3 is, but his track record in the postseason hasn't been great. Do they have enough to make a deep run to win a championship this year?
They're always trying to make themselves better, and I think they're probably 1 or 2 shooters away because Eric Gordon's health is in consideration at this point in time as well. A defender and a shooter is something that they're looking to pick up that gap that Trevor Ariza left behind. And that's going to help them become a championship caliber team because you have to defend and be a high-power offensive team to be in a hunt for a championship like the Golden State Warriors or anybody that's in that category.
Yeah. All right. Elsewhere in the West, Paul George will face off against LeBron and the Lakers tonight for the first time since spurring them in free agency. PG took a lot of heat for his decision to stay in OKC, but he's having one of the best seasons ever. And the Thunder are sitting at the number 3 seed right now as we speak. Dante, does George's success make the decision the right decision for him?
Yes, because he's comfortable. And I think we all know what it feels like to play with guys that you're comfortable with, who's on the same wavelength as you're on. I think taking his talents to LA would have been a chance, whether he's comfortable with LeBron there with the same type of personalities or approach to the game. That would have been taking a chance. But by getting traded to OKC, he found his match. He found a guy that he was aligned with, and he found a guy that he thought he can build and get towards a championship with. And I respect that because I've had the most fun and the most success on teams where I've had deep relationships and people that understood me. I think they have a cohesive unit, a cohesive core that can build towards a championship. And I think that's why he's most comfortable right now.
How I guess, difficult has it been, or how interesting has it been for you to watch where a guy that was completely ball dominant in Westbrook, these two kind of coexist and find kind of a rhythm to where right now they're, like I said, the 3rd seed in the West?
I think that's part of Russell Westbrook's maturity that he doesn't get credit for. He's taken a step back and said, you know what, I have to give these guys more of a reign. I have to not try and control as much as the game and affect the game in more ways than just scoring. And when he spoke the other day talking about I'm the best rebounder, I'm the best on-ball defender in the guard category, he's trying to take those stances so that the other guys can be themselves, flourish, and get better. And I think as he does that, they get better, they all improve, and they move up in the Western Conference standings.
Yeah, I like Paul George making a decision on what he knew was best for him, not what everyone else thought would be better for him. And you only know that yourself, given the situation that you and your experience in that current situation. I know from my experiences leaving Green Bay to go to Minnesota, everyone's like, oh, you're leaving Aaron Rodgers, you're leaving the Green Bay Packers. But what people didn't know was what I was walking into, not just football related, financially, from a family perspective, relationships, what I thought of those things, they all come into play. Definitely. And when you talk about the relationship and the rapport and the respect that he has for now Russell Westbrook, think about the celebratory party that he threw for him. Right. When he says, I'm coming back, I'm going to play. That means so much more. It's specifically, I believe, in a league like the National Basketball Association, where there's only so few players to where you have to have relationships with one another to afford yourself opportunities to compete against teams like Golden State Warriors and those teams like that. So I like what he did with staying in OKC. I think it's worked out well for him.
Right, they have a genuine friendship. They have a genuine compassion for each other as basketball players, but as men as well. And I think that's the challenge for GMs, to build teams with like-minded people, with like-minded sets of competitiveness. Guys who are focused on the same goal. And some guys are not focused on winning a championship, but I think those two were. I think he saw it in his eyes. I think he saw it off the court with the person that he is, that he gets to compete with and go to work with on a daily basis. And it was the fit for him. And I'm proud of him for taking a stance in what is right for me rather than what the media thinks. I think he's an outdoorsman, so the OKC lifestyle fits him on and off the court.
Okay, let me ask you this. I mean, obviously you don't have to put up with the circus that follows LeBron, right? Although you're not getting pregame wine in OKC, so you're not going to get that. But you don't have to put up with the circus. But in all seriousness, when you look at the West now, and you look at what the Nuggets are doing under Mike Malone, and you look at what the Warriors are, and you look at Houston, like, where do they fit? Do you look at that team, OKC, as a championship contender? Do you think that they can win and get to the NBA Finals in that West?
To your first point, the circus comes with winning, because even Steve Kerr said we're the most scrutinized team in basketball. Why? Because you win on a consistent basis. Yeah. And LeBron James gets the circus because he's a winner. He's been in 8 straight finals. Okay. But OKC, I think, is the second best team in the West, and I said it at the beginning of the season because of the dynamic that they built and the consistency as their roster moving into season 2 with Paul George.
Second best behind
the Golden State Warriors.
Where do the Nuggets come in on that for you?
I think the Nuggets are a young team that are going to have some playoff success and get to the playoffs and maybe win a series, but they don't have the experience to advance to those levels They're kind of like a Clippers team or a Rockets team that has take those hits in the playoffs to be able to grind it out and learn how to win in the playoffs and learn how to be a championship contender. They're doing great things in the regular season, but as we know, when the playoff times come, it's a total different season, and you have to learn how to win a 7-game series, and they just don't have enough experience on that roster.
Yeah, for me, I'll add this. Last year with Paul George and Russell Westbrook, I think having a guy like Carmelo Anthony, you're bringing 3 All-Stars together. The expectation is automatically they can make it work because the level of talent that you just put out on the court. And it's not that easy. And what I've seen with these two being in cahoots together, they understand, look, I respect you not only on the court, off the court, to where I'm willing to defer to you at any given moment because of the amount of respect that I have for you, because I know who you are, I know what you're about, and I can trust that. That's what produces winning.
The egos come out of the way in a situation like that where people say, are you the number 1 or the number 2? No, I know him. I know how he competes. I know how he works. I know his heart. So I don't have to worry about whether I'm 1 or 2. I just know that we're moving together towards trying to win a championship.
We're all in a business, and I always say this with my own business back in Denver, is you're either in the relationship business or you're going out of business. And to me, they look lockstep in the relationship business,
Definitely.
and that's why they're playing so well.
Definitely.
Love it. Coming up, you won't believe who just challenged The Rock to a weightlifting contest. We get into that and the best and worst of social media. That's coming up next.